Okay, is it recording? So in today's video, I want to talk all about the documentaries that you need to watch before you die. In case you guys didn't know, I'm like the biggest fan when it comes to documentaries, and I really do feel like they're underrated. I see a lot of videos on YouTube where people just talk about like their favorite movies, TV shows, and all of that they recommend, but barely anyone talks about documentaries, which is really sad. So I'm trying to bring awareness to documentaries, and I basically compiled a list of my 15 favorite documentaries. I'm gonna try my best to be really organized in this video, so I've written everything down. I've separated these into categories. The documentaries that we will be going through today will be for crime, pop culture / entertainment, nature / animals, food, and then miscellaneous. So miscellaneous is just like the documentaries that I couldn't categorize into all of the above ones. Let's try to keep this concise. I'm really bad at explaining things, so I'm kind of scared about making this video. So let's start off this list with my favorite crime documentaries. The first one that I'm going to talk about is called Evil Genius, the true story of America's most diabolical bank heist. What makes this case really interesting and why it's so infamous is because it's famously known as the pizza bomber case. So the premise behind this is that a guy named Brian Wells walks into a bank with plans to rob it, and he basically has a bomb collar strapped around his neck. But what makes this case stand out above like all other bank robberies is that people believe he was forced to commit this crime, and he wasn't the one that actually wanted to rob the bank. Someone had actually put the collar around his neck. This whole case just follows the story of everything that leads up to it and who could have possibly, you know, forced him to do it. It's crazy, it's insane. Like the first time I watched it, I was shook to my core. At the end of every single episode, I was left at the edge of my seat because I kept on getting confused. I was like, okay, it must have been this person, that person, but like it would change every single time, and it was crazy. It took me on a whole roller coaster of emotions, can I just say. Like truly one of the best like true crime documentaries that I've seen of all of 2019. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even trying to exaggerate, which is why I wanted to start off this list really strong. Definitely add this to your list. So for the next documentary, I'm going to talk about Tell Me Who I Am. I'm not 100% sure if this counts as like a crime documentary, but it kind of falls under that umbrella. This tells the tale of Alex Lewis, who was in a 3-month coma after getting into a motorcycle accident. He lost recollection of all of his childhood memories. Although he was an 18-year-old, he behaved mentally as a 9-year-old because of the coma and just like the accident that he was in. And so what's very unique about this case is that his brother Marcus is there to try to help him regain his memory. He's trying to help him like learn about his past, and he tells him like absolutely everything, and he paints like this wonderful beautiful picture of like their family, their childhood, just trying to guide him through everything that he's lost in terms of his memory. But essentially everything that he told him was a lie. So this documentary just tells about what happened before, what actually happened before, and what happened after, and everything in between. It's insane. It's very intimate, it's emotional, and the way they captured all of it was very well done. I was really sucked in. It made me sick to my stomach, and it also made me sad. It was definitely a must watch. That's all I can say. So for the last crime documentary that I'm going to talk about, which I feel like a lot of people here have already seen because I saw it blow up on social media, Don't Fuck with Cats, Hunting an Internet Killer. I just remember when it was being reported on the news, and like my whole family was talking about it. This docuseries basically starts off with this video that gets posted online of this mysterious guy that has these 2 kittens in this really shady video. He vacuum seals the cats, essentially like killing them. And so then what transpires after that is like this whirlwind of events. This group of people online try to uncover who this person is. The man keeps on posting like a series of videos online, and he's basically leading them on like a wild goose chase, and he's essentially enjoying all of the attention that he's getting from it. It's told from the perspective of just regular everyday people that made a group on Facebook to try to hunt down this person that was killing innocent cats. It's very disturbing. That's all I have to say. So that's basically it for crime. Now I'm going to move on to pop culture / entertainment. Next up, we've got Fire, the greatest party that never happened. So I feel like this is definitely one of the more talked about documentaries of 2019. I've seen so many memes on Twitter when it first came out. It was hilarious. So for those of you that are not aware about what the Fire Festival was about, it was a musical festival that was created in order to promote this talent booking app that was created by Billy McFarland and the rapper Ja Rule. They were trying to sell this experience to just a bunch of regular everyday people, and they promised this whole music festival that would be held on this exclusive island. You could live it up, party with supermodels, and just live like your dream vacation and all of that. They promise like a lot of really outrageous things. The whole plot twist of this is that when everyone arrived, it was nothing like what was advertised online. I feel bad for people that paid like that huge sum of money, but at the same time, it's honestly really hilarious. I remember when all of the models like posted their Fire Festival pictures on their Instagram, and I remember seeing like the orange square and people were like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? Next up is Losers. So this documentary really spoke to me on like an emotional and personal level. This series details huge losses that a bunch of really famous athletes have experienced in their professional career. And what's really special about it is that they don't focus on the losses, and it really just details the success and the lessons that they've learned after. I love the way that this whole docuseries was formatted. The little animations that they did, I think that was a really nice touch, and it made it really, really special. I really feel like this series will be able to help out a lot of people, and it really just spoke to me at a really like dark time in my life, because when I watched it, I was like, bro, I was watching this one episode. I think this is my favorite episode out of like all the other ones that they have, and it tells a tale of like Surya Bonali, who is this figure skater, and a lot of things worked against her, and it was crazy to see how she dealt with it at such a young age. And when I watched it, I just remember like sobbing for some reason. Inspiring message that comes out of each episode is insane. So if you're looking for something that's really inspiring and motivating to watch, I highly suggest that. And I feel like in today's society, it's always about just winning and succeeding, but not a lot is said about failing and actually just not living up to your expectations. It's great that they're kind of putting this in the spotlight. Winning all the time isn't realistic, and sometimes failing is also a good thing too. And I think that's a really important lesson and valuable life experience for people to like know about and just learn in general. So check it out. Okay. Oh, that's on. Sorry, I had a snack break and now I have to reset my camera again to reposition it. For the next docuseries, this is called Hot Girls Wanted Turned On. So this docuseries, I think it actually is a sequel to the original documentary called Hot Girls Wanted. I really enjoyed this docuseries because it talks about careers that are more on the taboo side. It explores an industry that a lot of people aren't really familiar with. I think this docuseries was really eye-opening to me because I learned a lot from the perspective of people that worked in the adult industry, people that are familiar with it, people that start a business, the whole business aspect of it, the emotional side, the whole public scrutiny of it all. It's really insane. It's really interesting. Every series follows like a different situation. There's some where it talks about people that work in the adult industry, and then there's another series that talks about this guy that's sort of like a serial dater on Tinder. He uses Tinder like obsessively, and he likes to like ghost people on it. And then there's another one about this guy that finally meets like this cam girl that he's been friends with for years, and that episode was really interesting. It was kind of awkward, but I think this is definitely one of those series that people need to watch, because I feel like when it comes to sections of the industry like this and just people with careers like this, a lot of people can be really ignorant and not really know too much about it. So I think it's really important to learn more, especially when it's from the perspective of the people that are actually like working within it, rather than just like news outlets or just whatever you see on Twitter, because it gives like a very humane and realistic viewpoint. Now for the final pop culture / entertainment documentary, I will be talking about Won't She Be My Neighbor? So this documentary talks about the life and philosophy of Fred Rogers, who was the host of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Growing up, I watched his show, and he was definitely a very special part of my childhood. He advocated for children's television programming, and his show as a whole was definitely so ahead of its time. Just to give you guys like a little background information for those of you that are not familiar with the children's show Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, I think it was a Canadian program. What made his program stand out above like anything else that was on children's television at the time was the fact that he really taught kids how to cope and deal with very large tragic events in their life, such as like death of like a pet or death in the family. Editing the video right now, and I realized that all I said was the fact that the show just talked about like big tragic events. It was way more than that. I forgot to mention that Mr. Rogers was huge for advocating about like mental health, and he also taught kids how to cope and deal with like negative emotions, positive emotions, and he was just really big on mental health amongst children, because that was sort of like an issue that wasn't really taken seriously back then. That is why the show was so spectacular and so ahead of its time. Moving on to nature documentaries. The first one that I'm going to talk about is called The Ivory Game. This documentary raises the awareness and concerns that rise with poaching of elephants in Africa. It goes behind the scene of people involved in the ivory trade, which is a very dangerous and lucrative industry. A lot of people like to buy the tusks that are like remade and like sculpted into kind of status symbols for people to like own and use as decor in their homes. It's really, really intense. They would have like these clips and scenes where people would risk their lives to go behind the scene and act as like a buyer, and they would go to these suppliers and different stores to take a look at these like tusks. This film gives you many different perspectives. You see people that are involved in the trade, you see people that are trying to stop the trade, you see people that are trying to protect the elephants, and just everything that's involved in this whole industry, which is insane. If you want to learn more about just this whole type of issue, then feel free to check it out because I think it was really, really informative. Next up, we have Virunga. I think that's how you say it. I'm so sorry if I pronounced it wrong. This documentary tells the tale of the Virunga National Park in the Democratic Republic of Congo and the park rangers that are involved with trying to protect and save the last remaining mountain gorillas from poaching, war, and the giant threats of like oil exploration. This documentary is really emotional to watch because you can see all of the hard work that these park rangers go into every single day to keep these majestic animals safe and free of danger. It's really special to see the kind of bond that they share with these like animals. If you'd like to be more informed about the whole situation that's happening there, this is definitely a must watch. Okay, I do want to end this category on more lighter notes, so I'm going to talk about the documentary called Born in China, which is one of the most breathtaking, oh god, who just called me? So Born in China is a Disney nature documentary. I'm personally a really big fan of Disney nature documentaries because the way they capture the scenery and do the whole storytelling is always phenomenal. It follows the lives of 3 different animal families, a panda, the golden monkey, and the snow leopard. Watching these Disney nature documentaries always puts me in such a good mood because the storytelling is phenomenal and all the work that's put into capturing the scenery. It's really cute. I enjoyed it. I watched this with my family, so if you're looking for something to watch on like family movie night, I highly recommend it. It was really good. Moving on to food. First, we're going to start off with Chef's Table. Of course, you guys know that I had to put this in. I started watching it when season 1 came out. I can't remember how many seasons there are now, but there's a lot. Every series.
I'm just going to quickly jump back in again, but my dumbass kept on calling episode series. Every time you hear me say series, I meant episode.
Follows the tale of a different notable figure in the culinary scene. It's really interesting because you get to hear about their past, their inspirations, what motivated them to become who they are today, what inspired their passion for cooking. I think what really sets this documentary apart is just the way they film everything. Like the cinematography is next level. It leaves me speechless. Okay, like the shots are stunning. I'm sure anyone that's seen it would agree with me. Highly recommend that. And so Chef's Table actually ties in with the next recommendation that I'm going to give called street food. So this is actually made by the same people that made Chef's Table. They showcase people that work in the street food industry, I guess you could say. Street food vendors often don't really have like that sort of platform. I think it's great that they're bringing something like this to a more mainstream kind of attention. It's filmed in the exact same way, so you already know that the cinematography is 10 out of 10. It was really inspiring. I watched every single episode, of course. It's definitely something to check out, so add it to your list. Now we're gonna move on to the miscellaneous documentaries, the documentaries that I couldn't place in any of the above categories. First, we're gonna start off with dogs. This is to all the animal lovers out there, to anyone that owns a pet. I really feel like this is a documentary for you. This is a docu-series that follows the lives of 6 different dogs that live all around the world and their special bond and connection with their community and their human, and it's honestly the cutest freaking thing. Every episode is a little bit different. There's this one episode about Japanese dog groomers. Then there's another episode with a young girl that has epilepsy and they receive a service dog that helps her with her seizures. And then there's another episode about the New York dog adoption system. All the stories were very touching and very uniquely different from each other. You just have to see it, okay? That's all I have to say. What more do I need to say besides the fact that it's a documentary about dogs? Come on. All right, next up we've got Daughters of Destiny, which follows the lives of 5 different students that are from impoverished families in India and how they're given the chance to kind of alleviate their family from the lowest social caste in India by being given an education. It's really eye-opening to see the things that they face and the motivation that drives them to do better, to want better for their family. I really like the way the documentary was shot because it shows them like growing up. You're literally there from the beginning when they attend the first day of class to the end when they're like in college and graduating and stuff. So it's really interesting to see the outcome of all the different students, where they end up. What makes this even more special is that these students are all girls. What ends up happening most of the time is that girls from that social caste in India tend to be denied education. This opportunity changed so many aspects of their lives, and you can really see it throughout the documentary. Now for the very last documentary that I'm going to talk about, that will wrap up my whole 15 documentary list, I'm going to talk about The American Factory. This documentary talks about how a Chinese billionaire buys out a closing General Motors factory, bringing back life and jobs to the community that thought that they were going to be jobless. In the beginning, it's very optimistic, it's very hopeful. Everyone in the community is excited because that means that they get their job back, but there are a lot of issues that they run into. So because they were bought out by a Chinese billionaire, he brings in a lot of his Chinese employees, and these people have very different work ethics than the American employees that are used to working a certain way and to like different standards. There's a lot of cutbacks, setbacks, and it really gives you this perspective and intimate look at the regular working class. It was really informative. I really enjoyed watching it. It did make me a little bit depressed, but it was definitely an eye-opener. That pretty much wraps up everything on my list. I really hope that at least one of them has interested you enough to want to go ahead and watch it and maybe add to your own list. Feel free to suggest any other documentaries that I haven't mentioned yet that you think is worth adding to the list. These are just the ones that I really enjoyed watching personally, and if you don't vibe with it, it's okay. That's chill. That's fine. I will definitely see you in the next video. Bye!